Here we are again, people. We are still alive. This old crazy world is going wild. All of us have to work harder in order to make less money, to pay bigger taxes, and for more goods that are inferior to what they used to be. But we're still here, taking out our frustration, fighting against each other when we should really be pulling together. Well, this is a time here at this channel where we can pull together and begin to understand the deeper things about ourselves and about reality. Thanks for being on our channel and giving us your ear for just a moment. And so we are going to pick up on our reading today from the Seeker's Journal, A Spiritual Journey by Om Prakash. This is a nonfiction journey. It's a journey that took place during COVID. And when I myself took this journey, I wrote it down in my journal, trying to experience what it would mean to move from one timeline or another, from one dimension to the next, through the use of meditation, contemplation, and spiritual practices. I wanted to see if it was possible for a human being to do such things. These are my findings. So sit back and enjoy. We are at journal entry number 53 right now. Little nuggets of truth. We are trapped in a loop on this earth. The civilization keeps repeating the same crisis until it moves beyond it to attain the next level of intelligence and growth. That's what happens to us on the individual level, too. It is as if though we are moving upward in a spiral and have to keep repeating the same thing over and over again to progress. This is something that happens in our personal lives, but also happens on all levels. Families, communities, countries, and worlds all have to go through the same experiences repeatedly until they are overcome. The thing that is challenging is that most of the time, the only way an issue can be solved and ended is in the middle of the struggle. If one is intelligent and wise and meditates before the incident occurs, one develops the power to move through whatever the issue is smoothly and easily. If one isn't intelligent or wise, the same thing keeps recurring, and sometimes it comes with more force than before, like a recurring dream that becomes a nightmare when one continues to ignore the message. Individual issues and growth are easy to deal with because of this phenomenon, because one has more control of oneself. As the number of people increase, it becomes more difficult. We are in another stage of an epidemic in this country and now in the world. Our response has been very poor considering that several of them have hit this country. Instead of being better at dealing with these issues, we have become worse. TB, the Spanish flu, influenza, swine flu, many of them hit this nation with the response to each being better than before, to point that these attacks have become no great deal. Now, however, as greed, arrogance, and ignorance has increased, our response has decreased. We have slid backwards as a nation and most of the world because of doctrines of selfishness and ignorance known as neoliberalism and the violence known as neoconservatism has forced their ways into the underlying thought processes of most institutions and nations. Because of greed, corruption, anger, and unintelligent leadership, we have collapsed into a world of anger and unearned pride, which in the Tibetan Book of the Dead is understood as the hell realm or the brute world. We find ourselves spiraling through the same issues we thought we dealt with long ago, only to find that we can no longer deal with them. Instead of spiraling up, we find ourselves spiraling downward. And I don't know what the next step is. There seems to be a repetition of occurrences that look very different but are actually the same in quality due to the dumbing down of most countries and the introduction of psychological techniques and an educational methodology to make people just respond and repeat to prove their intelligence while being unable to think for themselves. I fear that the next step will be devastation. It seems that wisdom had yielded to the type of knowledge that anyone can now find just by the tap of a finger. Knowledge unearned, however, is not helpful but dangerous because the process of working hard to attain the knowledge is what produces the wisdom that we need to improve our own lives and to create a better society. And that is the end of that entry. Heavy, huh? Entry number 54. And so it seems from all of our external experiences and internal experiences. I'll start that over again. And so it seems that all of our external experiences and the internal experiences are one and the same. They are just encoded in different languages. What is happening on the inside has a different texture and looks different, but is the same as the external. There is no complete control of the internal, which is a reservoir of hidden knowledge and understanding, just like there's no complete control of the external world. Through experience in the external world, through the sharing of both pleasure and the pain, we come to understand the foundation or the internal workings of the external world, which in turn teaches us the foundations of the internal world. Since we are talking about essences or quality instead of quantity, it is not necessary to explore all of the existence that exists to know the workings of the external world and thus the workings of the internal world. This can be done by a full understanding of just one aspect. One speck of reality contains the infinity of the whole. This one speck can be an understanding of the nature of reality on the outside or the inside. Guides, inner voices, angels, demons, archetypes, or just an exploration of the voices as they rise within the sea of the darkness known as the shadow in Jungian analysis can lead us to a full and complete understanding of what is. The trick, though, is that the understanding goes beyond language, thought, or form. The understanding is a state of being that is stepped down and ruined as soon as we begin to try to explain it. And the explanation must be passed through the filter of the ego. If the ego is not clear, clean, and expansive, our understanding of reality is incorrect and is stated in a way that will make it twisted and tainted, passing it through the filter with a small taint through many different filters, one from each person, some of who don't have a clue, warps the message more and more until we end up with an understanding very similar to the collective conscious on this earth right now. It gets passed around until it is not an agent of change, but an agent that helps to preserve the dominant belief system, the foundational dominant belief system known as the worldview. Words may be different, the claims may be different, the principles may be stated in a different way, but the outcome, when measured, remains the same. When we observe the various religions and even what they are calling spirituality today, this becomes apparent. For all the meditation, retreats, yoga centers, and drumming circles, we see that nothing in the larger world has gotten better, but has gotten worse. We also see the same pattern of segregation taking place in institutions where the people claim to be spiritual, but where they cannot get beyond their concept of race-based cultural norms that keep people of color out. We are like people looking into a mirror. The outcome of the actions that our system perpetuates is the mirror. If we look into that mirror, because everyone is participating in it, we can see the soul of our society. It isn't as clear on the individual level. Actions and reactions can come as people react to their egos. They can reflect something back that is not true about the onlooker because of the issues they themselves have. It is important, therefore, to know oneself and to know the correct way of living and being in order to discern what is true or false. Only by cleansing the heart constantly does one develop the skill. In other words, one must make sure their own house is clean before declaring other people's houses dirty. Journal entry 55. No earth shattering discoveries last night. I am just hearing the same thing repeated over and over again. Everyone is searching for truth. No one recognizes that they all have it because it is so frightening to let go of the search and to be left with the necessity of living. Our lives have been reduced to such meaninglessness that just living in this world is no longer exciting. One is hindered from just living. People enter into the race and take challenges upon themselves only because of the sheer boredom of being in a society where one is punished, where one attempts not to do so. Most of the air, the water, the earth has been claimed. It is supposed to be owned by those who don't even live on it. This reinforces the false idea of scarcity that exists in our minds in a world of abundance. And we find that it is difficult to survive without entering into this crazy race. One could be homeless only to be punished and looked down upon by a large segment of society that think that homeless people must have mental issues. Some may, but some may have realized that their fight to be part of this society is not worth it. It is like fighting to get into a burning house. If there was an alternative lifestyle, many would probably choose that, but there is none, except for joining some type of religious movement that is even more authoritarian than the secular system. We find ourselves trapped on a journey through the world. Seeking spirituality relieves us. It gives us a chance to strive for something good and to look forward to something great. Finding what we are looking for, however, is a different story because that will take us more out of the sync with the world view we have been drafted into. That, in reality, will be a dimensional shift that will send our life into a new trajectory forever. Many fear this, but this is your shift of dimensions. We will be reading the last journal entry for today, and that is entry number 56. As I write today, I'm totally exhausted. When the weather jumps rapidly by 20 or 30 degrees in one day, I feel depleted and tired. Today it is 60 degrees, yesterday the low 40s, last night 30s. I'm totally wiped out. I don't know why. Most of my life I have been affected this way, but big jumps like that hardly ever happen. Now it seems to happen every 2 or 3 days. It seems that my body is just not created for all the jumps in temperature. It is good that I don't have to remain here forever. I had a strange dream where several people were waiting in a waiting room receiving a lecture. We were supposed to be in the Navy. There had been a war or something and the world was in tatters. Many of the ships that were sent out to sea had been totally destroyed. We could see the wreckages of ships completely blown apart. We were supposed to sail out and rescue the survivors. We all stood in line. I was with a woman who was my partner or friend. We stepped into the line and waited. I held the gate open for her. It was her job to hold it, but I did it for her. She told me that if I wanted my privacy, I should do what I always did. I didn't know what that meant. We began to walk. Somehow I got in front of her, between her and a friend who was another woman. We changed places as we began to move our ships as a group. People suddenly began to separate into three different lines going in different directions. I thought we were all supposed to be together. She peeled off and left me standing there as others moved. I was indecisive, but then just started heading for just any line. I was moving. As I was moving, I realized they were going at a ridiculous pace, and I could barely keep up. Suddenly, I felt this pain in my right foot. It was like a cramp magnified. It hurt my foot and the whole right side of my body as if I were having a stroke. I was awake, struggling with the pain when I focused my mind and pushed the energy out of the bottom of my feet. My whole right side was hurting and my mind racing. I still don't understand the dream completely, but I think it was talking about my birth. I think I was experiencing the troubled birth I had as a child where I was stuck in the womb for several hours. The lecture, the choices, and the standing in lines was about me choosing to be born to enter into the world and help. I came in her place because we had changed places in line. That is why I have a great deal of feminine energy or a feminine trace. My other half, still on the spiritual plane, looks female but kept the masculine trace. When we are together, we become whole. I don't really know how to explain what I mean by a feminine trace. In this dualistic world, one is understood as masculine or feminine, but not in the higher realms. In reality, there is no masculine or feminine. One is just whole. To be born in this world, if one wants to be happy, one must choose to be masculine or feminine. The traits that are associated with those here are then placed in the body via the soul energy so one can take on these characteristics. That trace, along with socialization, helps the person develop as a man or woman. The trace gets sealed as we pass through the gate or the birth canal. The birth canal is prepared by the spirit to enter, either to develop the traits of the male or female. My gate was prepared for a female, but a male came through. Due to social conditioning, this really didn't make a difference, but there is a subtle difference in the energy of the two. In Chinese terms, the female energy is yin, the male energy is yang, but each energy, when fully developed, looks completely the same to the unawakened. I was born with the yin energy instead of the yang. My other half has the yang energy. It is only through our unification, when I saw my other half in a dream and touched her and had a Kundalini experience, that I became whole and she became whole. I think that is what the dream was about. I still don't understand that I should do what I always do if I want privacy. I don't always do anything. Perhaps this recognition that I don't always do anything except exist is what was meant. I am here, and that's just about it. And so, thank you for joining us. Visit us at minds.com under Om One or our YouTube channel or pick up our radio station. You can find all of these things at our website at nextstepcoaching.mysite.com. Nextstepcoaching.mysite.com. We look forward to being with you again very soon for the next reading.